Steve, Mark Schwartz, ESPN. You guys have so many weapons in your arsenal, but one of the intangible weapons that you have is just tremendous confidence on the part of individuals on that team. How does that confidence express itself? What does it look like to you, and how does it play out when you're down in a series like this?
I think any team that has been through the experiences that we have and that has won championships has to earn that confidence. You know, I think players are naturally pretty confident at this level. Star players like we have, they've all got confidence. But what the real confidence is when you've been through everything, you've seen everything, you've won, you've lost, you've experienced every high, every low, and then you know what this is about, and you can dig into your reserve of experience to remember what's necessary, which is really, you just keep going back to the basics. You know, it sounds boring, but transition defense and boxing out, and it's just, you know, football coaches just say blocking and tackling. It's the same concept, but your ability to do that under pressure, you know, when you're in the finals or in a big series, whatever, and everybody's, you know, asking you a million questions, it's can you focus on blocking and tackling? That's what, you know, that's what it comes down to. And to me, confidence is not just confidence in your shot. It's confidence in your ability to execute all the details that go into winning a game.
Mahoney? Right.
Steve, Brian Mahoney from the Associated Press. I'm not sure if you had seen yesterday the Clippers were fine because Doc Rivers made some comments on a TV show about Kawhi. I mean, as someone, I think you're probably interviewed more than anyone just based on how long your seasons are. Do you find yourself worrying about things you say now more than you used to? And I guess on the other side of that, you guys have your own free agents. Do you worry about what other people were saying about your players?
I got fined when I was the GM of Phoenix for making a joke on the Dan Patrick show. I think he asked me if we were interested in LeBron when LeBron was a free agent back in whenever it was that he went to Miami. And I said if he's willing to take minimum, we would take him. And Dan laughed, and I wrote a $10,000 check the next day. So I learned my lesson. So I don't comment about any other players.
Michael, right here.
Steve, Michael Grange from Sportsnet. The skill of relocating as shooters, I mean, there's no one in the world who gets paid more attention to than Steph, and probably Clay's second. And yet somehow they're able to squeeze themselves open. What goes into that?
I think it's a team-wide effort. You got guys who are willing to screen for them, who recognize those situations where it doesn't have to be a play call. You don't have to say, all right, we're running whatever, you know, 4 out. You recognize situations where you can just set a screen for a guy. We got a lot of smart basketball players, guys who can make passes, who can set screens. And then I've said this many times about Steph. He's very unique in that he can beat you on the ball or off the ball. And most players are kind of one or the other. But he is a guy who is equally as dangerous in a ball screen with the ball or coming off a pin down like Reggie Miller or somebody like that. So that's what makes him so dangerous.
And I guess he must be just good just reading the play, like where to find that next little seam as it's breaking down, too.
Yeah, it's just seeing the floor. Again, you know, going back to the number of playmakers that we've been blessed with over the years. It's what a lot of opposing coaches have told me over the last few years is that what has made us difficult to guard is not just that we've got, you know, Steph and Clay shooting or KD. It's guys like Andre and Draymond and Sean Livingston and Bogut and you know David Lee a few years ago. And DeMarcus now. We've always been blessed with a lot of passers and playmakers.
Tim on the right side.
Steve, Tim Reynolds with the AP. For those of us who have never done it and never will do it, what is the challenge as a coach to get on this stage and have to try to figure out how to get a player like Boogie back into the mix while, you know, not completely disrupting your rotation and with the knowledge, of course, that he's not not fully 100%?
Yeah, I mean, you watch a lot of film and you discuss it as a staff, you discuss it with the players, and you try to find the right balance. So the other night, I thought that he played well. I thought we had some really good moments. I thought, one of the reasons Jonas Jerebko made a couple threes and Quinn Cook got open for three was because of DeMarcus's attention that he drew from the defense. So he made a couple steals. He did some good things, and that was a good first step. And so we have to figure out now, as a staff, as a team, where does that leave us? Do we increase the minutes? Do we change the role at all? Those are all things we've been discussing.
And as a quick follow, I
Mark
think you were
Thackray.
asked this, and I apologize, but he came out of Thursday okay? There's no pain, no problem?
that?
No. DeMarcus, there's no problem?
he's
no,
fine.
Okay.
He's fine.
Mark, back right.
Yeah, Mark Berman, New York Post. After the game, Steve, you said, I don't know if we were familiar enough with this Raptors team at full strength. After a couple of days, I mean, how confident or how do you feel now about, the X's and O's and the players' knowledge of what this team's about?
Well, it's great to have the videotape. That's where you can really learn. And so we had a good film session yesterday. We'll have another one today. And I think a team like this that pushes the ball relentlessly, it's not enough to just say, hey, guys, transition defense is important. I think you have to feel it. And we felt it the other night. They ran the ball right past us several times. And as I said the other night, our transition defense was very poor, and that has to improve.
Steve, Jackie
Hi,
McMullen.
Jackie.
How are you? ESPN. How did the addition of Marc Gasol change the way the Raptors can play?
I think it gives them another passer, another playmaker. I made the comment yesterday that I feel like our teams are pretty similar.
Right.
Siakam reminds me a lot of Draymond, the way he pushes the ball, the way he play makes, and we've had a lot of passing centers, Bogut and DeMarcus among them. Mark is unique because he can make the three-point shot, but he's a really good secondary playmaker. So when the ball is swung to him, really good passer, he can move the ball along and generate offense out of any traps or any type of defensive pressure. So he's a very good player.
He seems to me still, even after all these years, a little bit of a reluctant three-point shooter. Like even in that game, maybe he was some of those dare shots you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's been a three-point shooter for that long.
Really hasn't, no?
Yeah, maybe a couple of years. I remember maybe 2 seasons ago, it seemed like in Memphis he started shooting corner threes, and they were running specific play sets for him where he'd stand in the corner and the opposing team's big would automatically go help in the paint, and he'd shoot a wide-open corner three. But like so many players these days, he's worked at it. So now he's shooting the above the break three, and he's a guy who can take his time, and he does take his time, but he can do it because he's a 5-man, so he's standing out there above the break, and most defensive fives are going to be in the paint. It's what they've been taught their whole lives. So. But that was not the strategy the other night, to let him stand there for 6 seconds. So we'd like to be a little sharper with that.
Thank you.
Phil, back right, and Eric over here. Last 2 questions.
Hey, Steve. Phil Barber, Santa Rosa, Press Democrat. What did you think of Jordan Bell's game in Game 1, and how much do you expect his minutes to be tied to specific matchups on the floor moving forward?
I thought Jordan did a good job. One of the reasons we started him was because of his speed, knowing we were coming in with a 10-day break, playing on the road against a fast team. I liked his athleticism, so he did some really nice things. And every game's going to be different. Pretty much every game this postseason has been different at the center position based on what we've needed. The one constant is Looney, who's going to play his 28, 30 minutes one way or the other. So what we're always trying to do is mix and match and find matchups and fill in those gaps with the right combinations that can help us win. So Jordan did a nice job the other night, but, so did DeMarcus. I think, Bogut's available. Bogut could make an impact. And Looney, as I said, is kind of our mainstay, despite the fact that he doesn't start. So we got a lot of options at that spot.
Eric over here.
Hey, Steve. Eric Corrine, The Athletic. Nick was in here earlier saying there was one approach you guys were using on Kawhi that he hadn't seen before or seen much. You've game planned against LeBron for a bunch, and now Kawhi. Do you go into it thinking you can surprise them, show something new, or is it just a matter of giving them a volume of looks that they really have to slow down their thought process?
Well, I think there's, with great players like Kawhi or LeBron or Kevin Durant or whoever, it's the old cliche, you can't just do the same thing over and over again. But in this case, the cliche is true. You can't give a guy the same look every time. So you just try to mix it up and keep them off balance as best you can. I thought we did a decent job overall. On Kawhi, he didn't have his best game, but our transition and other areas of our defensive game were really lacking that we've got to clean up, and we're under no illusion that we're going to stop Kawhi. We're just trying to make it as difficult as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.